And we are live. Yes.
Namaste.
Hello. Namaste. Hello, dear ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our interview with Dr. Kausthub Desikachar. For all those who are here for the first time and all those who you don't know, still Dr. Kausthub Desikachar, let me introduce him. He's a distinguished yoga teacher, yoga therapist, and mostly for the today topics, he is also a spiritual advisor. We will see why is this very, very important today for us. My name as a host, I'm Katja Ujcic. I am a yoga teacher, I'm a yoga therapist, I'm also an art therapist and therapist for gifted people. And we are doing with Dr. Kausthub Desikachar these interviews now since pandemic started in the world. So I think we have now already six interviews. Kausthub, what do you think? I think this is the sixth one. And we are always picking the themes and the stories that are far more interesting than just yoga or life. So today we picked angels and demons. So I'm encouraging you all that write a little bit in the comments if you have ever experienced connection with angels, or did you ever felt there is a demon around you. Let's see how are your experience in this field with these beings. Yeah, but first maybe a few words about the today's interview. So we are going to talk about the story of all stories. Actually, we are going to talk about the story of eternal battle in this universe, in the earth, about light energy and dark energy. So these are two energies, yes, Kausthub, that they were created, and we are going to figure it out. Kausthub, we're going to explain us where they're created from the same source, where does one being, one energy ends, the other energy begins. Why we connect light energy to joy and dark energy to suffering, why we don't see these beings. So all these questions we are going to get an answers today. I hope that we will have enough time. So I would first like to ask Kausthub to chant a little bit for us in the beginning to connect as a group and maybe to call angels or also demons. We will see Kausthub. For us in the beginning to connect as a group and maybe to call angels today. Oh, these demons? Huh? Sorry?
It's an echo.
It's an echo somewhere there. Oh my gosh, what just happened? Who is that? Was an angel or a demon?
So, maybe a bit of both.
Wow, we'll see. So please, Kausthub, can you chat for us?
Okay, let's do a chant. To invoke good angels into our heart, Ayatu Varada Devi Aksharam Brahma Sammitam Gayatri Chandasa Mata Idam Brahma Joshaswanaha Om se. Om Saho se. Om Balamase. Om Brajose. Om Devanandhamanamase. Om Vishwamase. Om Vishwayoho. Om Sarvamase. Om Sarvayoho. Abhibhuro Gayatrim Avahayami Savitrim Avahayami Saraswatim Avahayami. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Thank you very much. Namaste. So, for all of you that you are here, hello Valerie, hello Kate, hello Supriya, yes, Kasturi, hello, hello Mihaela. So, if you want to introduce yourself and if you want to say for us a few words about your experience of angels and demons, would be very nice. So, Kaustub, did you ever had any experience with angels or demons, maybe even?
You changed the question. You are dangerous. So, see, there you are. I have just had an experience with the devil. You.
No.
Of, I think, I feel, and I know for sure that everybody in this world has had some experience with the angel or the demon, however you want to call it, the light or the dark, as I would say.
Yeah.
And I am no exception. I experience many experiences with both throughout my life, even recently, as well as I'm very confident and positive that I will experience many more such occasions in the future. And especially if we are in the field of spirituality, in the field of healing, for example, there is no escaping angels and demons or light and dark, however we want to call it. It is a fundamental aspect of human life. It is a fundamental aspect of this world, and we need to accept it. There is There can never be one without the other. It's like two sides of a coin. You cannot have one without the other.
Wow. Very good. We are going to figure it out well what all that means. But let's start first with this story. So it's the story of all stories, actually. Is this the story of universe or the earth? So how were the light and dark born?
In the Vedic tradition, we actually have different stories about how the light and the dark is born. And the stories, they say that in terms of manifestation into material world, the evolution happened from the subtle to the gross. So the divine spark was first always light, but it was a very tiny spark. From that spark evolved other aspects like consciousness, like energy, and then came the elements like space, wind, fire, water, and earth. And that is how the evolution happened from lightness to darkness. But in the material world, this is a cycle. So the light is moving into dark, the dark is moving into light. There is no fixed, um, what you call fixed or static state, that there will be only a time of light and there will be only a time of dark. There's always a kind of fluidity around this. And when initially the divine created the light, darkness was also existing. And when we look at different mythologies, for example, if we look at certain teachings like the Mahanarayana Upanishad, etc.,
Mhm.
they say that actually in the beginning there was darkness, and to illuminate what was in the darkness, the light was created by the divine. And it is something that is also accepted or consistent, let's say consistent, in the Abrahamical religions, because in if you read the Bible as well, I mean, the light, it came into existence when God said, "Let there be light," which means before that phrase, what existed was darkness. And sometimes we must not understand darkness as necessarily something that is bad, but light and darkness are two forms of energy. And there needs to be a balance between the two. And it's a problem when one is too dominant than the other. So, in some ways, just like a magnet that has two polarities, that is creating a sense of balance and harmony between the two polar opposites, there is got to be a balance between the light and the darkness for our existence. If we allow the darkness to completely dominate us, then it creates a lot of problems. Whereas at the same time, if we also allow the light to dominate too much, that also is a problem, because we will not necessarily be grounded in reality.
Mhm. Yeah, very interesting. The fluidity, yeah. The interchanging of light and darkness, and how
It's
darkness
what
is, yeah,
it's what we see every day. When the
yeah.
sun sets, it becomes dark.
Ah,
When the sun rises, it becomes bright. One gives way to the other. There cannot be one without the other. Imagine if there was only sunlight, it's a problem.
yeah.
Imagine if there's only darkness, that's a problem.
Hmm.
So we need to have moments where one dominates, and we need to have moments where another one dominates as well. But the problem is, if we allow for one to dominate beyond the time and space in which it has to dominate, that creates the problem.
Great. So from that point, does the beings of light and darkness actually then exists, or is just the energy?
Um, Before we go on, your classmate Natalie Garo has just come. Let us wish her a happy birthday today. Happy birthday, Natalie.
Oh, Natalie, happy birthday. How nice of you, Kausthub, that you remembered. Hello, Natalie. And I encourage you all to write something of your experience from angels and demons. I know it's a little bit scary maybe to write that kind of intimate experience of energy, but we are really very much interested in it. And maybe Kaustub can explain a little about your experience. So, Kaustub, does
I
angels
remember your
do?
question.
Yeah, great.
You can
Your
repeat it.
So, are they angels around us and are they demons around us, Kaustub?
Now, for me, I have a problem with this word angels and demons to some degree because, in some ways, it's very restrictive, which says that, okay, somebody is an angel and somebody is a demon. I would actually like to say that there are some people where their angelic side is dominant, and that's why we call them angels. And there is somebody else where their demonic side is dominant, and that's why we call them demons. But it doesn't mean that the angel does not have something which is darkness, and the demon does not have which is something that is lightness. There's a balance. There's in these cases one becomes excessively dominant and it starts to influence the patterns of their behavior, the patterns of their interferences. And yes, there are lots of beings both in the manifest world with a very gross body like we all have, where there are beings of angelic qualities and there are beings of demonic qualities. But there are also entities which have got subtle bodies only, not the gross bodies, that has been talked about in the Yoga Sutra as well. Videha Prakritilayanam, which also exist, that is often guiding us or supporting us or somehow uh, giving us some kind of guidance. For example, in the Latin word for genius, it's come from the word like genial, where they are saying that for these people who are the geniuses, some angels are whispering the ideas in
Yeah.
the ears so that they could create these kind of sparks of brilliance or whatever. And I've seen this on a number of occasions. There is always some divine support that is coming in the form of some angels, and sometimes some challenges that is coming in the form of some demonic forces that we need to manage. And it's very, very fascinating because even yesterday this happened, and I really need to talk about this because yesterday, um, in the morning when I wake up, I check after drinking my coffee. I was checking my email, and I saw that I had received a message from a couple of people who basically said, "Oh, I would love to do your pranayama course next month, but I don't have the resources to do it because I have not had enough jobs because of the corona crisis." And in some way, I was reflecting about this during my practice, and I hold them in my heart during the practice for a moment or two. And I then continue with my daily life. And 11 o'clock India time yesterday, I have the chanting, the last chanting for the
Mm-hmm.
global prayer. And
Yes.
so I chanted and I concluded the chanting, and I switched off the meeting. And one of the ladies from the chanting group who have been attending my chanting classes along with her husband for the last 2 months She sent me a message saying, "Oh, Kausthub, I really want to thank you and support you. So, in case there is anybody who would like to attend your pranayama course, me and my husband would like to sponsor that person."
My
Now,
gosh.
this
Wow.
person does not know that I have received this email or these messages.
Yeah.
And you see, now this is a divine act.
Yes.
It's an angelic act where somehow this got connected. So all I did was I connected these two people together and said, "Hey, this is the person who would like to do. If you would like to support this person, please talk to each other." And they connected. And now that person is able to participate in a program that she could not. And this is the power of angels that
Mhm.
we often don't see. They are all around us. We just need to pay attention to them. At the same way, there are also demonic forces around us, and we need to pay attention to them. Very often, one of the problems with modern people is we only want positive things, we don't want to deal with negative things. And that is why we also miss the positive things because, like I said, the angels and demons are two sides of a coin. So if you, let's say, for example, you have a coin on the floor, and on one side there is a picture of the devil. Now, because you see this picture of the devil, you don't pick up the coin.
Mhm.
But if you pick up that coin, on the other side is the picture of the angel. So when you pick up the devil, you're going to get the angel as well,
Yeah.
and vice versa too. It's not that you will always get only good things. Life is about both. So when
Yeah.
we don't deal with the difficult, dark moments of our life, we will lose the capacity to deal with the good moments of life too. And that's why we must learn to deal with both. And most importantly, not get attached to either. If you have a run of bad luck, don't think that that is the only thing that's going to happen to you. If you have a run of good luck, it doesn't mean that you will always have good luck. Both of them, we have to let go at some time. And that is where vairagyam comes in, the concept of letting go. It's so important.
Wow, it's a very, very beautiful story and very, very important information about that. Yeah, that it's all one coin. So let's check our uh, guests here on our interview, Kaustov. So Sarah said, I can understand about light and dark needing a balance, but what about evil and goodness, negative and positive?
I
What's your
just think I just answered that
Yeah,
question.
yeah.
When you, I mean, evil is basically when the darkness has become too dominant, and that is controlling our actions. And we see that in ourselves, we see that in other people. And one of the things that we have to understand is we can only change this in ourselves. We cannot change this in other people so easily,
Yeah,
especially that if we are not those kind of healers who can influence other people's energy, which is a very dangerous thing.
yeah.
But what we can do is influence positive things by making choices that will not support evil.
Hmm.
So, for example, today we face a situation where many governments seem to be dominated by evil, by business interests, much more than the interest of their citizens.
Hmm.
Now, the best way to manage that is next time don't choose or don't elect such a government. Now, this you can only do your best because in a system like a democracy, a lot of people will have different views about the same thing. So you cannot control it, but at least your conscience is clear. So there's nothing that is wholly evil, there's nothing that is wholly good. We are made up of all these entities or components, each of us, and there are things which are good in each of us, and there are things which are not so good in each of us. We just need to bring out the balance of the two. Sometimes we need to deal with the negative emotions like anger.
Yeah.
If some injustice is going on, we need to stand up to it. We need to get angry because anger may be useful to stand up against something. Like if you look at the anger that the people in America have now about the murder of a black man by a police officer for a very unjust reason, there's a lot of anger, and rightfully so. But these things have to be channeled in the right direction rather than just stay as anger and develop into rage and develop into this. It needs to be channeled in the right direction. And that is the most difficult thing. And that only comes when we step back, not when we step into the ring of darkness. We need to play that role of stepping a little bit back. This is
Mhm.
very important.
But how we distinguish the information that comes, let's say, from some angels, yeah, or some our guide that is in more in light, than from the our or from demons, yes, than from our own feelings, our own inner world. Is this is it anger connected to more dark energy, or how would you explain?
I really don't think that for the energy of light and darkness, there is an outer world and an inner world, because for them they transcend the body. So what can go inside can also go outside. So sometimes the angels will visit us inside, sometimes they will advise us from the outside. It's the same with the dark forces. Sometimes they're inside, sometimes they're outside. And sometimes I've
Right.
seen this
Yeah.
happen where when I'm trying to help somebody who has been, let's say, possessed by a demonic force,
Hmm.
the demons in them come to attack me or
Yeah.
somebody in my family so that I am distracted from helping that person. So these things happen because they are not bound by the kind of boundaries that matter is bound by, because this is just energy. The important thing about all this, how to know whether this is an angelic advice or a demonic advice, is very simple. The word that keeps coming to me is empathy.
Hmm.
Something that is guided by light will be empathetic, whereas something that is guided by darkness will be egocentric. So if you are acting in a way that only benefits you without an empathy for somebody else, certainly this is something that is the voice of the dark forces. Whereas if you are acting based on the advice of something that you feel or hear, which shows some empathy, not only toward you but also to others, it means that there is some force of light that is guiding this. It's not that if a light force will make you to sacrifice your life for another like a martyr.
Yeah.
It will usually have some kind of empathy, and that's why uh, I also look at this in another way of expansion and contraction. You know,
Hmm.
darkness is contracting because it's very dense, whereas lightness is very expansive. So a very simple thing, if you have to take something, that's a contracting motion emotion. So
Hmm.
if you're
Yes.
going to suck somebody's energy, if you are sucking somebody's energy, you're sucking somebody's time, you're sucking somebody's space, you're sucking somebody's material resources, that's dominated by the dark resource. Whereas if this is making you expand, when you're giving, your fingers have to open, your heart
Yeah.
has to open, your energy will open. All this is where I would say, are the distinguishing factors between what is light and what is dark.
Yeah.
It's absolutely as simple as that. We don't need complicated logic or mechanics to understand these things. And it's also about acceptance. When light is dominating us, there will be acceptance because light is more fluid. Light bends and light is more fluid, whereas darkness is more rigid, more solid, more dense. It can't move so easily. So people who are dominated by the dark, they are very stubborn. They're very
Mhm.
fixed with their views. You see that in some of the leaders of some
Yeah.
countries where they are so rigid with their ideas that they are not very fluid. Whereas you see with some very profound healers, they are much more fluid and accepting of all these kind of parameters and resources. So, and again, I don't want to say that some people are like that, some people are not like that. Some people are dominated by this, some people are dominated by something else, and this can also change. People
Hmm.
who are dominated by light can become dark, people are dominated by dark can become light. And this is something, and the people who are shining brightly, they will never carry a badge on their chest or on their forehead written all over that they are a great healer, they are a great guru, they are the great blah blah. They don't need
Yeah.
to. The sun doesn't need to tell anybody, hey, I am shining. The sun never needs to say that. It just shines. That's all. And that is a very good sign of somebody who is dominated by the light, who is guided by the angels. Whereas somebody who is dark will sometimes wear a mask of light to seduce and manipulate people. And that is what we have to be very careful about.
Wow, it's a very, very good point that the sun does not wear a title. I'm shining. Yes, and we see there's a lot of um, let's say healers or teachers that are like that, so on the other side, a lot of states, governments, and very important people, there are exactly as you said, yeah, very, very rigid. Yeah.
And thanks to Facebook and Instagram and all these channels, there are also lots of people who are claiming to be healers and claiming to
Yeah.
be helpers, but in reality they are not. And that is a very big problem. That is a very big problem today we have.
Yes, but at the same time, because you said there is a balance, so we have now in the world more. Is it more or not? I don't know. Maybe you can tell more this rigidity, more darkness. But if this is more, then we should then have also more light, and the people who are true healers from light, from shining.
Correct. Currently we are in the dark era, the Kali Yuga. So it's much more easier to be dominated by darkness than by light, especially because the influences around us, they are dark. You see, I give you a metaphor. In Sanskrit, the word for a king is called Raja. Now, the word Raja derives from the etymology Ranjati iti Raja. That means the one who is shining.
Wow.
So, in the traditional times, the king was somebody who was shining with wisdom, shining with knowledge, shining with clarity, shining, was radiant because he or she was connected with the concept of light and angel. This is what was dominating them for most of the time. Whereas, and there is also a saying in our culture, which is, I think, absolutely true, where they say, Yatha Raja Tatha Praja. As is the king, so are the subjects. So if the king was leading them with example of light, the subjects would, majority of them would be dealing with
Yeah.
light. And
Yeah.
the opposite is also true. If the king is dark, then the majority of the subjects will also be dark. Now, if you look at today's leaders, and I tell you something, in today's leaders, it is not just politicians who are the
Hmm.
leaders. Today we have influencers like the celebrities in the TV business, in the movie business, in the sports business, and all these other fields. Many of them, they have become dominated by the dark because the currency of the dark side is things which are fixed like money.
Hmm.
It's not fluid.
Hmm.
The currency of the spiritual world, the domain of angels, is faith.
It's faith.
So, is
Wow.
faith. And
Wow.
that's the currency of the spiritual world. So, in modern time, even our faith based religions, whether it's the Hindu temples or the churches or the mosques or things like that, somehow or the other are dominated by money
Hmm.
and structure which are very rigid. And therefore, and that combined with all the political leaders, the sports people who are earning millions and millions of dollars, have are continuously bombarding us with influences that are dark, that are dominated by the dark. And that is why it is a challenge in this era to be dominated by light. It's not impossible, but it is a challenge because we are constantly bombarded by this. Can you imagine that we refuse to pay research scientists top money, but expect them to develop a vaccine for corona within 6 months, but we don't mind paying millions of dollars to a sports guy who
Yeah.
entertains us for 1 hour or 90 minutes. Now, that is absolutely not right.
Hmm.
So, but we see that that is coming from a place of taking. We want the research guy to give us the best vaccine with little amount of money. And we don't value that.
Yes.
That's the problem. So, as Oscar Wilde used to say, we know the price of everything and the value of nothing.
Yeah.
And that is precisely the dominance of the dark era. So, it is a challenge today. It is not impossible, but it is a challenge.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So let's be careful about the money because it's the currency of the darkness. Yeah. And it's so, we are so, every our second of life, it's connected almost to money, you know. We need to pay the rent, we need to pay the food. It's all connection to money.
I think that is the big challenge now we are facing in the world today because we have created an economic system around the world that is only dependent on money. We have created
Yeah.
countries have become only capitalist, and that is not really working. 40, 50 years ago, we still had some countries that were socialist or communist, but now we don't have a choice. Everything has been made into a capitalistic society, and that experiment is not working everywhere. Maybe it's working in some parts of the world, but it's not working everywhere. So, and we have run out of the choice because we have killed other systems. So it doesn't mean that one system is better or the other, but now we don't have an option even to try.
Hmm.
So we have put the money as the most important measure of success instead of clarity, enlightenment, or things like that. I often talk to parents. About 100 years ago, when people had multiple children, they would always encourage their most intelligent students to pursue studies like spirituality. In India, at least, the spiritual studies was always open to the most brilliant of students. Whereas now, if somebody is smart kid, the parents want them to study engineering, law, medicine. Why? Because that gives the most money, not for any other reason. Oh, they will earn more. This is the common answer I've heard all around the world when people are encouraging their smart kids to. If a smart kid wants to study something like yoga or something like that, or spirituality or something like that, they're like, what? Are you crazy? And this is the problem. This is the world we have created where we are not sending the best kids to spiritual domains or healing domains or health domains. We are sending them to economically, what do you call, fields, driven fields.
And then at the same time, they expect the parents that these children are happy.
Exactly. That's the problem. And sometimes it may not even be that is the choice of the child, but it
Yeah,
has been brainwashed to make some choices because they'll say, hey, you will get money, you'll get money, you'll get money. And
because
that is,
money is connected. How you have money, then you will be happy. Or if you have money, if you go in more deeper layers, then you will be safe.
exactly.
Safe. Yeah, you will have a home, you will have a car, or maybe if you will have a nice tie, then they will promote you. And it's really a big mess, or it's actually some sort of manipulation from darkness, probably. That I think we will have to make another interview about manipulation of the darkness that we just started to talk about now, because this is a huge deal, not just in just one individual person, but in whole world. Yes. But Kaustubh, let's go. Yeah.
Um, I mean, why do we manipulate is
Yeah.
because the dark side, because as I explained a little earlier, the darkness only wants to take. So it needs to take energy more and more to sustain the darkness. That's the difference between the black color and the white color. The white color does not absorb anything, it reflects everything back. Whereas the dark color, the black, is absorbing all the color and does not let anything go. So when we are dominated by the dark side, we need energy to sustain us. Now, that energy can be coming in the form of food or money or sex or whatever. And if we are not going to get it naturally, we are going to manipulate to get it because the goal is we want to grasp it. So we will manipulate any way possible to get that which we want. So that's why we start telling lies, or we play the political games or strategies and things like that. There's this great Italian word Machiavellian. We are
Mhm.
manipulating to get into power. So we will do that because we want to grasp, we want to take. It's very rare that you want to manipulate when you want to offer.
Mhm.
It's very rare.
Yeah. It's
If you think
win-win.
about it, yes, it's
Yeah.
always when you want to take.
So
And that is the dominance of the dark side.
yeah, very interesting. Yeah. So let's check the questions or the experience of people. We can see Matejci from Slovenia. Hi, Matejci. So she wrote, my experience is that if I am in darkness or low vibration, I have problem like I have feeling that entities are attached to on me, and I can't go out from this darkness. And like you said, it's important not to go too much in darkness. I needed a lot of energy and self-discipline to get out from this bad period of time of darkness. So she's feeling that something dark is attached to her, and she needs a lot of discipline somehow to or get rid of it, or to come into more light.
It's absolutely right because it is much more difficult to get rid of darkness than it is to get rid of light.
Yes.
It's very easy to get rid of light because light is not sticky. Like I just said, the light is not sticky, it just bounces back. Whereas darkness that is dominated by tamas, tamas is very sticky. It's dominated by the earth and water elements, which are very, very sticky. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's, of course, very difficult to get rid of the darkness. The only way is to focus on the light and warmth so that the stickiness becomes a little bit more fluid and is somehow becoming, how to say, dynamic and lighter in its constitution so that it can let go. So I completely empathize with you. It is harder when you have to let go of the dark when compared to light. Light is so easy to just get rid of it. You don't even have to do anything. It just will just go on because it's so light and it's somehow transparent. So it just bounces off you. Whereas the darkness will stay. If you think about it, people remember trauma much longer than positive experiences for the same reason, because the trauma is a dark energy that is heavy, that is much more difficult to get rid of. Whereas positive experiences, let's say you had a great and enjoyable holiday with your family, you can forget very easily if one small dark thing happens. And so, my advice to you is keep sustaining, keep connected with the light, and turn your face towards the light so the darkness is behind. A lot of people want to get rid of the darkness, get rid of the darkness, get rid of the dark, which means you're giving more and more energy to the dark side.
Mm-hmm.
Focus instead on the positives that you have, because a small light can fill a room of darkness with light. So, a small amount of light is enough for us to turn away from the darkness. It doesn't mean the darkness disappears. It just is you're not giving it so much energy, so you're making it a bit more weaker
Mm-hmm.
to dominate your life. So focus on tiny, small things that are full of light, and that's enough. Give your dog a hug, smell a flower, eh, hug your partner, do something which is very simple. That is enough. If we keep focusing on the dark more and more, and many people do that, oh, I have so much trauma, I have so much trauma, I have so much trauma, I have so much trauma. You're giving that trauma much, much more energy, and therefore you're not going to come out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that you should not deal with it, but don't only deal with it, because there's also some light at the other side.
Yes, but it sometimes it looks also I am my own personal experience, and also with my clients. I'm dealing a lot, as you said. Also, I can sense these energies a lot in people, dark and light also. So sometimes I also have a feeling that people somehow just wants to stay in this darkness, that it's modus operandi to be in the darkness, and it's a little bit of sadomasochistic also.
It's the manipulation again to maybe get attention, to maybe get some things that they want in life, because that becomes their identity.
Yeah, and
And
it's
that identity, when it starts giving them attention or some other things, they don't want to let go of that. It's very easy to be in the victim role because of
yeah.
this.
Hmm. So, is there any, let's say, certain characteristics beside that you said that someone wants to take, and it's the contraction feeling and the contraction movement, that are there some other characteristics in a human that we can then say, okay, this human is probably, let's say, not obsessed, but very deep into dark energy? Are there like, there's a system?
It's very simple. The yama and the niyama,
Uh-huh.
if if we are dominating in our behavior with yama and niyama, somehow the light is guiding us.
Yes.
Whereas the opposites, and Patanjali talks about this, vitarkaha himsadayaha kritakarita anuboditaha lobha krodha moha purvakaha mrudumadhya adimatraha dukkha ajnana anantapalaha iti pratipaksha bhavam. The opposites, violence, for example, if somebody is dominating their behavior with violence or with lies, not authenticity, but lies. Lies is not just simple white lies, even so many other things. Like I consider people who wear a lot of makeup lie because they are wanting to project something
Yeah.
other than their authenticity. People who are very often so polite in their conversation, who do not tell the truth at all,
Mm-hmm.
about what they feel, just being polite again and again. That is not yama and niyama, that is asatyam.
Uh-huh.
People who are not having integrity, people who are stealing ideas, words, or material from others, people who have impure thoughts, people who are grasping, the opposites of the yamas. That's all we have to look at. Shaucha, not
Okay.
being pure in your intentions, not being pure in your thoughts. That's manipulation. Santosha, asantosha, lack of contentment. No matter how much you have, people are not content.
Mm-hmm.
When I look at certain rich countries like United States or things like that, they're so wealthy, but they still want more and more. They're not happy with what they have. They want to conquer. They go to South America to destroy forests so big for making more beef and pork and things like that. That's the opposite of santosha. It's asantosha. That's a sign that the dark side is dominant. It's not that they don't have food. I mean, if a country like some countries like Africa or some parts of India where there is so much poverty are wanting food, that's so different. Whereas you go to America, the pizza is like larger than three times
Table.
larger than the normal pizza in other countries, and the the Coca-Cola is like 2 feet tall, and the burger is like 1.5 feet thick, and things like that. It's not as if there is a lacking. That is asantosha. Non-swadhyaya, a lack of self-inquiry, a lack of self-reflection,
Yes.
lack of detoxification, lack of
Mm-hmm.
the wanting to control everything. Ishvara pranidhana is the opposite of wanting to control, letting go of control, accepting. Whereas if you look at some people, they always want to control. You look at some countries, they always want to control other countries, weaponize everything possible to control. That is dominated by the dark side. And I
Mm-hmm.
always talk about this. The field of yoga is dominated by this because when you look at yoga organizations, whether it's the Yoga Alliance or the International Association of Yoga Therapy or the Australian yoga schools and associations and things like that, they weaponize yoga. They put some rules and they want their people to follow these rules so they can control these people. It's weaponizing disciplines like yoga, which are spiritual disciplines. And that is absolutely dominated by the dark side. And we must not encourage this in spiritual fields. And that's why I choose to be an independent operator. I don't want to belong to any of these nonsensical structures. And that is exactly the opposite of yama and niyama. Ishvara pranidhana, the divine is in charge, not you and me. It's not you and me who are in charge. I can't even control everything about my own life. How can I control something about somebody else's life? It's impossible. And that is the collapse of empires. If you look at historically, every empire wanted control, but it's not possible.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
In the divine kingdom, there is no control by you and me. The divine is operating. We are just mere instruments of the divine.
Very beautiful. Yes. So in that, I am asking you the question that Claire asks, is there a link between avidya and darkness?
It is because
Yeah.
the word avidya comes from the word vidya. Vidya is a very fascinating concept, and that is why I keep saying again and again that modern yoga is in really a horrible place, because yoga is part of the six schools of philosophies that are called as the astika darshanas. Astika comes from the word that exists. Asti iti astika. That exists. What is that? Consciousness. That is beyond matter. Purusha, you can call it. Consciousness exists. Consciousness is light, not body and the senses, not prakriti. Patanjali says this in the Yoga Sutra. Na tat swabhasam drishyatvat. Mind cannot perceive itself or shine on itself because it doesn't have its own light. Now, in yoga, we have this beautiful definition of avidya, which is the non recognition of the self. Avidya is not ignorance of German language or English language or mathematics or biology or chemistry. It's not lack of knowledge of these kind of fields. Avidya is the lack of knowledge of the self.
Yeah.
That's why Patanjali defines avidya anitya, ashuchi, dukkha, sukha, etc. When you look at these four combinations, anitya, ashuchi, dukkha, anatmasu, these four belong to prakriti. Nitya, shuchi, sukha, atma, these four belongs to purusha. Confusing this to that is avidya. You don't know the difference between these two. That is avidya. So avidya is a state of darkness because Purusha is the one who has light. So if you don't know who is light, if you're not looking at the sun and you're looking at the darkness all the time, of course you don't know light. So avidya is lack of light.
Great.
Lack of connection to the source of light. Let's put it that way.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. It's the connection then. And in this time on earth, there's a lack of connection to the consciousness, to the light. It's like all over. And those who are trying to have a sort of connection, and we are doing this like every day, the connection to light, and we are dedicated to it. We are really a revolutionary, I think, Kausthub. All the students that you have and my students, I always told them, you're heroes. Yeah.
Yeah. And heroines mostly, because I have more women students than men.
And heroines, you hate to heroes and heroines. Yes, great job. So the last question, Kausthub, how can yoga help? Are there any mantras? Are there any tools in yoga that can help that we are more in light and less in dark?
It's very obvious to the traditional masters that any appropriate yoga practice is helping us move towards the light. That's obvious. However, the modern scenario is quite different, because in modern scenario, most of the people identify yoga with only performance of asanas and not integrating all the aspects of yoga. So when we integrate all the aspects of yoga, then we will be led step by step towards the light. That's why Patanjali is very, very perceptive and such a genius. When he talks about the Ashtanga yoga, he gives the sutra very clearly. Yoga anga anusthana ashuddhikshaye jnana deeptihi aviveka khyatihi. The two keywords are yoga anga anusthana. You have to practice all the limbs of yoga. Jnana deeptihi. Light will arise because the toxins, the darkness will reduce. So darkness and light cannot exist in the same moment. One has to go down for the other to rise. So if we practice the Ashtanga Yoga of Patanjali, all the limbs of the yoga, and not be selective about only one or two,
Mm-hmm.
and practice it in the appropriate manner, because even asana, the way it is practiced now as a musculoskeletal experience,
Mm-hmm.
is actually not asana practice at all. It's just gymnastics.
Yeah.
Asana is a spiritual practice. So, if we practice any of the tools of yoga appropriately, and the word anushtana is a very fascinating word, because anushtana actually means under the, you have to practice it under the careful guidance of a competent teacher for a long term. And
Yeah.
that's the other thing, which is we can't expect light to dominate like that, like you have to put a switch on a button. That is part of the problem we have, when in my grandfather's time, when they would have only the oil lamp, they light the oil lamp. That lamp will take some time to light up the room, because the light will take slowly, it will fill the room with light. Whereas in modern times, we are used to this luxury of switch on a button, immediately the light is illuminated because of the tube light or the fluorescent bulb. It's instantaneous. So that samskara, that pattern has been indoctrinated in our head. Hey, darkness should be switched to light in that instant. It's not that way. It takes time. That's why the word anushtana has been used, not abhyasa, because abhyasa is daily, and okay, you can say when you practice this, next time, immediately at the end of practice, you feel good, you feel
Yeah.
better.
Yes.
But anushtana is a long term practice. It's a long term practice. And when I say long term, it does not mean like 3 months or 4 months or one year.
Yes.
It means like 10 years, 15
Yeah.
years, 20 years,
All
30
life.
years,
Yeah.
whole life.
It's
Because
dedication, really.
the darkness and light is like a game. If you
Yeah.
stop working on the light, the darkness will dominate. So you have to continue to work on the light again and again, so that the darkness remains hidden. That's why
Mm-hmm.
the word is Anushtana. And that's the big problem today, because we don't have many people in the yoga field practicing yoga in a traditional manner. That's the problem. Everybody wants to practice yoga in a musculoskeletal manner, because they want to reject what is called the spirit. We can't talk about prana in yoga field also. In many countries, they won't accept it. This is the big problem with many of these so-called governing bodies of yoga, like these organizations I talked about, is they don't understand nor accept
Yeah.
concepts like prana or energy. And people who are following them are doomed.
And
And
it's
that's the problem.
and it's easier to manipulate, yeah, for all these
They
people.
are manipulating people. That's it. They are
Mhm.
manipulating people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, according to that, maybe you can say to us if you have any other modules. I think you have a module now, a course for pranayama coming. Is this still okay for the people to join you, or?
Of course, it's always, our doors are always open.
Oh, how nice. Yeah, thank you very much, Kaustubh. So, my feeling is that we will need some more information about this light and dark, Kaustubh, especially how we can help ourselves mostly, and maybe how can we, let's say, communicate, or how can we know the symptoms of a person or of ourselves, and help ourselves if we feel that we are more in dark, like in really on in life, in concrete.
This
Yeah,
is a very important discussion, and I think we
yeah,
can table it for next meeting, because it needs a lot more explanation. Because
yeah,
also, many people in the modern era are only diagnosed through what we call the Nastika traditions, the non spiritual traditions like modern medicine. And sometimes this creates a lot of scope for misdiagnosis or mishandling of these people,
yeah,
because many times, for example, people are diagnosed to have depression or let's say bipolar or different kind of mental disorders, when actually they don't have a mental disorder. There's a
Mhm.
spiritual problem, there's a spiritual conflict that's going inside them, and you can't treat that with medication. There is no medication to
Yeah.
treat these problems because medicine does not believe in the domain of the spirit. And I mean the chemical medicines. I don't mean natural herbs of plants, or things like herbs like naturopathy or homeopathy and things like that. But
Yeah.
medicine like allopathic medicine does not have the capacity to deal with these kind of things, and there's a lot of misdiagnosis, and this is an abuse.
Yeah.
And doctors are like James Bond. They are licensed to kill. So they can falsely diagnose these people, give them medication, and make them suffer. But spiritual people cannot help them. And that is the problem with the world today. And I know many, many students who have been misdiagnosed with illnesses like um, depression, or even Asperger's syndrome and things
Yeah.
like that, where they actually do not have these kind of problems. They just have some kind of a spiritual problem, which is not understood by most people.
Exactly. Yeah. The spiritual health is
Yes.
so very, very subtle, on very subtle level. And it's the most subtle, which means it can influence all the our body, our energy, our emotions. And this, I think, it's so important, but at the same time it's so very we need to be very, very careful, because, for example, me as a healer, as a therapist, as I can also see energies and so on. So it's very important for me to be careful with that, also because of me, as you said, happened also to you, that you had a negative feedback, a dark feedback. So and also for of course for the people. Yeah. So I think we can have another interview if you are willing to talk to us. We would be very grateful for you about that. I think it's very
Of course.
rarely that we can have all these informations, so coming from such a integrity as you are, yeah,
I,
that
I,
we can have.
I will do my best as long as people are interested in the truth. But the truth can often get people in trouble, and that
I
is
know,
also something that I have learned to accept, because
I
because
know.
I stand for this kind of truth. A lot of the
Yeah.
people, especially from the materialistic yoga approaches, they try to attack me, but I have learned to let it go.
Yeah, and let's ask angels to join these interviews, and you and me and all the people, of course. Yes. Uh,
I remind myself what my father said in these kind of situations. There is an Indian, very fascinating Indian saying. He would often
yeah.
say that to me: "The dogs keep barking, but the elephants keep
Yeah.
walking."
Yeah. This is very, very good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. It's very good.
It's very important that we are not anti the materialistic approach. It's just that that should
Yeah.
not be the only approach. It's If we do that, then we are not honoring the diversity
Yeah.
that humanity deserves.
Hmm.
It's like saying everybody has to follow only one system and nothing else. That is very abusive to humanity. It's like saying everybody has to eat the same kind of food, everybody has to eat the same kind of drink, the same kind of drink, everybody has to wear the same kind of clothes. That is an abuse, because that
Hmm.
is treating us like machines. We are
Yeah.
not machines, we are human beings with a great diversity. So the medical approach is helpful to help medical problems, but it should not be the only approach. There should be other approaches that are also important. And the other paradigms to only evidence based double blind testing need not be the only way to establish a science. The word spirit has been in existence for 5,000 years now, even though medical science does not exist, and so many people in the past tried to reject it, but it has sustained. That itself is proof that there is some
Hmm.
validity to this approach.
Yes. Hmm. Okay,
Yeah.
great. So thank you very much, Kausthub.
Namaste.
We see you in 2 weeks, and thank you all the people that join us and all that will listen later on to this interview. So in the end, as always, I will ask you to have a nice chant for us. So with this chant, we are closing this interview, and see you in 2 weeks.
Om. सूर्यश्च मामन्युश्च मन्युपतयश्च मन्युकृतेभ्यः पापेभ्यो रक्षन्ताम् यद्रात्र्या पापमकार्षम् मनसा वाचा हस्ताभ्याम् पद्भ्याम् उदरेण शिश्याम् रात्रेस्तदवलुम्पतु यत्किञ्चदुरितं मयि एदमहं माम् अमृतयोनौ सूर्ये ज्योतिषि जुहोमि स्वाहा ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः Namaste, my dears.
Namaste.